Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be making 5 beautiful Easter cards using a paper pack that I got from Michael's a couple years ago. Isn't it just gorgeous? I never used it, and I thought today I'm going to challenge myself and use this paper pack. And we're going to do what I used to do when I first started making cards, is paper piecing and using the cut aparts. So I'm just finding the two that they only have. They have 2 of each, but one's at a larger scale and then one is at a smaller scale. So here, the first thing you're going to need to do is, of course, cut them apart. Now, this that I'm currently cutting apart is, we're not going to use that in this video. We'll use it in next week's video to make larger cards. This video is going to contain A2 card sizes, but nonetheless, I thought just to cut them out. And then here, this one's a little bit more trickier just because of how they aligned everything. Now, I did use my paper trimmer, but I'm also cutting through certain ones that, just to make it easier, that I don't really need to use in my cards. So, if that bothers you, then obviously use your scissors or your paper trimmer and work it around the areas that you don't want to cut through. So I'm also using cardboard ninths. I think this is sweet pea, but I could be wrong on this one, and I'm just kind of seeing what works. Now, you'll see this a lot in this video where I am just trying to place things together and see how they look, because honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. I never do when I do paper piecing. I kind of just see what works, and I lay pattern on top of pattern and see if it works. And of course, I want to trim down my panel. Now, this is something that you may actually want to skip. I thought about just gluing everything directly onto the card base, but I thought maybe I should just do it on the panel to add an extra layer, if you will. So I think I'm just trimming it down to 1/8 of an inch. I honestly really have no measurements on anything, just because I was just cutting it down to size. If it works, great. If not, I cut it down more or end up redoing it to make it a bigger offset, if you will. So again, just trimming this down and just to give another layer to my first card here. And again, I think I'm just going down 1/8 of an inch or even 1/4 of an inch just to provide an additional offset. Now, I'm also using this pattern cardstock as well. I love this floral design. And here you can just see, I'm just seeing, does this look good? Does it line up good? Does it make sense? And if it does, great. I will move on and then proceed with the card. But again, you'll see this a lot, just me laying it on top of each other and trying to decide if it makes sense. So, and then of course I add my carrot, which I absolutely love. And then I'm looking at it and I thought, you know what? It needs an additional layer, again, layer on top of layer, to provide a little bit of an offset for that carrot. Now, I know we said that, or I said that I was going to put the dies and stamps to the side, but you all have to get this. If you're a card maker, get this die. It's from Waffle Flower. I'll link it down below in the description box. I absolutely love it, and I do use this a lot, but this is completely optional. You definitely don't have to. And yes, I am using the stamp. We're off to a bad start, but I felt this carrot was just on its own, and it needed a sentiment in my professional-ish opinion. Now, of course, you don't have to. You can leave the carrot alone as is, but I don't know, I just really needed a carrot. It just needed a carrot. No, it needed a sentiment. So that's why I ended up doing this, but I promise I didn't add any more stamps to it. I do just end up using that Waffle Flower plaid textured die set over and over. So of course, I'm going to go ahead and score my card base. Is an A2, so it's 4 1/4 by 11. So you just got to score at the 5.5 mark, which will be right down the center. And then I ended up not using that really hot pink because I just felt it was just too bright and it wasn't going. So I ended up deciding to use a white offset. And then here you could just see that I'm just trying to figure out, what works. And then I'm adding foam tape to the base of that plaid textured carnation, or is it sweet pea? Sweet pea. I just think this card turned out super adorable. So on to the second card. I thought this little egg with the little chicken in there is so adorable, and I had to find out how I'm going to use it. So you see there just a second ago that I was just trying to figure out how they're going to look with all those different card stock laid together. So again, just like we did before, we are trimming down the panel, and then here I'm just kind of cleaning up when I trimmed apart all of the cut aparts. I think I aligned a little bit. It's kind of hard to align it in my opinion. So here I'm just using my smaller Tim Holtz guillotine paper trimmer. I think that as a crafter that makes cards, this is so necessary. I know you're thinking, well, the large one does the same thing as the small one, but for some reason you can just get more of an accurate, intricate cut, a small intricate cut with a smaller paper trimmer. So that's just my opinion. Here, I'm just trying to trim this down and seeing, like, again, I'm not really focusing on the measurements. I am and I'm not. I just kind of, get an idea and then trim it down. Is that the wisest idea? Probably not, because I ended up having to recut things because I cut it too short or too long. And I just kind of was in the zone watching my Real Housewives and also creating this card. So I ended up just playing around with it. And I just think this card turned out adorable. Definitely one of my favorites. Next one is probably the favorite one that I made. I don't know why, but I just love this card. So I didn't want the pattern on the bunny trail, so I ended up just cutting it out using my paper trimmer here, and then I'll have to end up using my scissors for the remaining portion of the card, or I'm sorry, of the cut apart, just to trim out the remaining portions. But I just love it. And of course, if you want to keep the background with it, then go for it. But I just thought it'd be cuter to trim that part out. So here, I'm just trying to see, okay, is this card going to be portrait top folding? Is it going to be portrait side folding? Which that really doesn't make sense. Or is it going to be landscape? And so I'm just trying to use this card to kind of get an idea. And I ended up thinking it needs to be top folding at a landscape style for this to really work. It's super large, so it was kind of difficult for me to think about, like, how is this going to fit on an A2 card size. Now, I most certainly could have gone up or done a slimline card. That would have worked perfectly, but I was really trying to stay with an A2 card size. So that's what I ended up doing with this card. So again, I'm just paper piecing things together, seeing what works and what doesn't work. So sit back and relax and enjoy this process. now you can see why this was my favorite card. I don't know. This card is just where it's at. Okay, let's move on to the next card. Okay, so again, I'm just kind of playing around to see what I want to work with next, and I feel like I'm a broken record, but just seeing what works and what doesn't. And this card is probably going to be one of my least favorite cards because I kind of made a square attraction to the card, but it's rectangular. The A2 card size is rectangular, so it just, to me, it didn't flow nicely because you can see that the sentiment is rectangular, but those two plaid cardstocks, they're square in nature, so they just didn't really flow as well as I thought it would. So this, again, probably is my least favorite one that I did. But you know what? It's fine. And I was trying to figure out, what made sense and what didn't. And I think overall it wasn't terrible, but let me know what you think. Does it look okay? Or do you think that this is going to be your least favorite too? Just let me know. But here's the finished one. Not bad, but I would probably turn this into more of a square card. So moving on to the next card, we're using the Hop, Peep, and Yay, I believe is what it was, and I'm just cleaning my workspace. So again, folding my card and then just trying to figure out the size that I need for my champagne cardstock, and I end up using the plaid texture dye on it, and I'm telling you what, had I realized how cool of the texture it looks on this champagne foil cardstock, I would have done it at a larger scale, just because the sentiment really does cover it up. So I definitely want to do this again on another card and really utilize that dye. So again, I'm just thinking, does it need to be A2? Does it need to be portrait or landscape? And I did find that this card would make more sense for it to be at a landscape position. So here I'm going to use two patterns and then cut at an angle just to provide, and I'm also going to use this one as well, the pink one, and I'm going to use pink, blue, and then this floral because I'm not sure which one is going to look good. So that's why you'll see that I'm cutting all three of them at the same time. So I'm just slowing it down here, and again, just going at an angle that I think makes sense. And then I'm going to piece the floral with either the blue and the pink, and hint, I end up using the blue one. I thought the pink looked good, but we kind of already used it quite a bit and we needed to bring in some blue. So I ended up using the blue plaid pattern cardstock for this card. So here I'm just kind of seeing, again, like what works. Does this work? Does it look good? And again, I think it does. And I most certainly could be using it for another card because I have the other pieces left over, but I truly do think that the blue does look good. And of course, you probably saw it in the thumbnail, but here you'll see that, and I realized that I grabbed the wrong one, but you'll see that the blue buffalo check does look a little bit better with this, but I don't know, it's just the vibe that I was kind of going for with this card in particular. So I really like doing this, cutting them at an angle and then piecing them together. I love pairing patterns with patterns, and just, I never used to be like that until I've watched other creators years and years ago, and especially in particular May made it, and she does that all the time, and she just really inspired me to pair different patterns together and not be nervous about it. So here I'm just trying to see, okay, does this pink really look good? And I think it's because of the background of the sentiment is why it kind of threw me off, because the pinks kind of don't match up with the plaid and the background of the peep, what is that, peep, yay, and whatever it is. So that's why I ended up using that blue plaid cardstock, and I thought that was a good offset with the other two. final one. Oh my goodness. This was so fun and easy to do. We got, let's see here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. They are such an adorable set of cards, and it all came from this paper pack that I got a while ago that I thought I would never use. The Spring and Hop paper pack from Michaels, and I'm sure Michaels has some version of it. And look at, I mean, I can still make, they have, everything's 2 of each, so I can literally make more cards, different variations than what I produced here, and I still have the larger ones. I can make 5x7s, right? So we have that, this one, and of course you can make this little note card, but there you go. So I still can make quite a bit from that pack. And so you guys kind of seen it all fast forward, but just because this was a lengthy video in itself, I probably worked on this for a couple hours, more so just kind of seeing how this is going to get put together. And I honestly think that, I mean, I know that I did the stamp here, so it's not 100% cut aparts, right? But other than that, so like 99% of it was all done by one paper pack, and you can totally ixnay on that and just have the carrot. I mean, that would be super cute, right? Sometimes you don't need a sentiment at the beginning, at the front of the card, right? So you could totally just avoid doing that. But I really wanted to use that and put somebody loves you and then put a carrot. How cute is that? So here they all are, and I just think these are super adorable cards, and really, honestly, so easy to do. It was just a matter of picking and choosing what pattern cardstock goes with what. Okay, so with that being said, next week I will be doing the same paper pack, but we're going to do a 7 card size and a slimline card. So stay tuned for that, because we're going to be using the larger sizes of these. I worked all together all in one night, so I had to divide it up just because of the length of the video. So stay tuned. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next card or craft video. Bye.